And today I look around and I'm very proud to see our Indian brothers and sisters proudly living up to the traditions of Indian culture. Not Hindu culture, but Indian culture. And today we should celebrate that. And my message to you today is about how do we invest, 5 simple tools, how do we invest in ensuring our children live on the values that we have inherited. Our scriptures tell us that how we live our life in the present is not because we owe a debt to our ancestors. That's important. We express gratitude for their contribution. But our scriptures tell us that how we live our lives in the present is not out of debt to our ancestors, but out of duty to the next generation. How we live our lives in this present moment, today, in today's society, it is because we have a duty to our children. If the only tool, according to Abraham Maslow, if the only tool that we have in our life is a hammer, listen to this. If the only tool that you have in your life is a hammer, then you would tend to see every problem as a nail. Bhaiya Samaru, Rajeshji, if the only tool, Bhaiya Samaru is putting up a big screen for us later today so that we will enjoy more comforts in performing our worship, so we will see better at the front of our temple. And if in constructing that screen all he had was a hammer, then the product will definitely not take form. He would need a saw. You would need, what else you need, Bhaiya? You need a measuring tape. What else you need? You need a drill. You need a hammer. You need nail. You need sheetrock, and you need paint, right? And you need a supervisor. I'll do that. You see, if the only tool, it sounds very simplistic, but think of this analogy in all other applications in our life. If the only tool that we have is a hammer, we will tend to see every problem as a nail. It simply says that everything that we do, we must require the right tools and resources to give us the result, the product, the screen that we want. And unless we invest in having different tools as a people, how can we assure that in the next 164 years, our children and grandchildren would be living the life that we would have dreamed for them? We would have been living the life that our ancestors dreamt in 1845 for us. They had the tools. Their tools were what? Their tools were sacrifice. Their tools included a vision and a mission. Their tools included sweating. Their tools included investment in their children's education. Their tools included buying a little piece of land so their children will inherit it. Today the most valuable asset in this country and around the world, it is land. Indian people taught the world the value of investing in land. You see, all those sacrifices, all those tools were meant for you and I and our next generation to enjoy. But it does not stop there. And today I would like to share with you 5 tools. And let's call it the M and M times 2.5. It is the M tool. And there are 5 M words that I would like to share with you as parents, as leaders, and not only as Indians who are viewing this broadcast on cable television, but as a people who would like to survive the contribution of your ancestors, whether you're Indian, you're non-Indian, you're Muslim, you're Christian, or you're Hindu. What your parents gave to you, unless you have the tools to invest in your children and your grandchildren, then we would not be surviving the arrival of our ancestors. The very first M word, it is, I must be a model. I must be a model. The professionals of today tell us that we would remember 10% of the things we hear. Think about this. You and I, we remember 10% of the things we hear. We remember 50% of the things we see. And this is a message also for school teachers, because they also understand that there is nothing like a less than average child. All children are equally disposed to learning. What teachers must learn is to adapt their teaching style to the needs of the children. So we remember 10% of what we hear, 50% of what we see, and we remember 70% of the things we speak. But we remember, according to science, 90% of the things that we hear, see, speak, and do. What does it mean? We must first model. I must be a model for my children. I must be a model for those who are looking up to me for guidance. And if we have to celebrate arrival, and there must be survival of the arrival, then we must be the models for our children to live on. One day, they will be singing praises to Krishna Bhagavan, thanking him, hopefully, for our contribution to their life. One day, they will be offering prasadam to Lord Krishna, saying, Lord, please bless the soul of KRISHEN RAMDEEN, for one day, we hope that his soul comes back to you. But how do we do that? They will do that when they see me modeling that behavior. When I sit and perform worship and give thanks to my ancestors, and that's just an example. But we cannot ask our children to do something when our behavior is different. We cannot instruct a child, I don't want to see you put a cigarette in your mouth, but in doing that we're puffing one of our own. We cannot instruct our children to do otherwise if we are not models of our own. Today, my very good, esteemed lawyer friend, Anand Ramlogan, in every Indian arrival day, he makes the statement, where are the male Indian models in society? And it is not to criticize, it is to encourage. But more than that, we need to assert ourselves, not as Indians, but as a people. We need to assert ourselves to ensure that the model that we are, the way that we not only think, but the way that we speak and we act, is consistent with what we will leave as a memory, as a contribution in the lives of our children and our grandchildren. We need to be the example. What did Baba say? We need to be simple, we need to be a sample, and we need to be an example. And unless we are a good example, there is no model. So the very first M word that we need to practice to ensure that the survival of our ancestors and their contribution is we need to reshape and remind ourselves of the model that we should be. Not the one who dress up nice and thing. Model means the examples, the qualities, the traits, the characteristics that we emulate. We need to act in a particular way. What is the second M word? We need to mentor or mentor. We need to mentor the young ones. What does it mean by mentoring? Mentoring is not instructing. Mentoring is when we act and we are the examples and we show people what is right and what is acceptable. We need to bring them in to act with us, to do with us, to perform with us, to work alongside us. And that is what is mentoring. Mentoring is not instruction. Mentoring is, after we have been the model, we need to bring the younger ones, bring them to temple. Don't send them temple, bring them to temple. And that's just an example. Bring them with us. That is mentoring. Showing them what is important. But it is more than just showing them. It is helping them to understand why. Today, Hinduism is a much talked about religion. Hinduism is a much talked about religion. Why? Because despite it being the oldest way of life given to man in doctrine form in terms of religion, or documented religion, so to speak, it is one of the religions that is most criticized. Why? Based on all the traditions, and you must do this and you must not do the other, and this is right, and unless you do it this way it is wrong. And there are so many rights and wrongs that we have inherited without understanding why